If someone had looked at my life from the outside, they might have thought I was living a dream. I had the charming husband, Daniel. He was handsome in a classic, almost Hollywood way, sharp jawline, easy smile, and a presence that filled every room he entered. To the world, Daniel was ambitious, hardworking, and the kind of man women envied me for. Our home sat in the suburbs just outside Chicago, tucked into a neighborhood where families waved at each other from their porches, children played on cul-de-sacs, and lawns were trimmed to perfection. I worked as a teacher at the local high school, nothing glamorous but something that kept me grounded, gave me purpose. From the outside we looked stable, enviable even. But the truth was, cracks had begun forming in the perfect picture long before I noticed them. It was in the way Daniel came home later and later, brushing off my concerns with casual excuses about late meetings or unpredictable deadlines. It was in the way his phone buzzed at odd hours of the night, and how he suddenly began guarding it like it contained state secrets. And it was in the silence between us. The conversations that used to flow freely now replaced with small talk, forced smiles, and the kind of intimacy that felt staged. I wanted to believe it was just a rough patch, the kind that every marriage endured. But deep inside, something whispered, "Your world is not as solid as you think." The unraveling began one chilly November evening. I had just returned from a long day at school, my arms full of graded essays. Daniel wasn't home yet, not unusual. I went about my usual routine, reheating leftovers, setting aside a plate for him, lighting a candle in the kitchen to make the house feel less empty. When I went upstairs to put away laundry, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally I respected his privacy. But this time, curiosity and unease won. The message preview lit up the screen. "Last night was unforgettable. When can I see you again?" My chest tightened. My throat went dry. I told myself it could be a friend, a colleague, someone harmless. But the way my gut twisted told me otherwise. I didn't unlock his phone, I couldn't bring myself to cross that line, but the seed of doubt had been planted, and it spread like poison through my veins. When Daniel came home that night, smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't the one I'd bought him, I watched him more closely than I ever had before. The easy way he tossed his jacket on the chair, the distracted smile he gave me, the way he avoided my eyes when I asked about his day. I wanted to scream, to throw the message in his face. Instead, I swallowed my words and studied him, trying to find the man I married underneath the stranger standing in my kitchen. Something inside me whispered, "Your world is about to break." And I didn't know how to stop it. The next week, I tried to convince myself that I was imagining things. That maybe M was short for Mark or Michael or some client from his firm. That maybe I was letting my insecurities spin a story that wasn't real. But the lies became harder to ignore. One Friday night, Daniel told me he had a late meeting downtown. I smiled, kissed his cheek, and told him to drive safe. But as soon as he left, something inside me snapped. I grabbed my coat, my car keys, and decided to follow him. I felt ridiculous, like a character in some cheap soap opera. But the pounding in my chest wouldn't let me sit still. From a distance, I trailed his car into the city. My palms were sweaty on the steering wheel, my heart beating so loudly I could hear it in my ears. He parked near a sleek, modern hotel. I watched as he stepped out, adjusted his tie, and walked inside. I waited. 10 minutes later, a woman appeared. Tall, elegant, with dark hair that spilled over her shoulders. She wore a red dress that clung to her curves, and her smile lit up when she saw him. Daniel's face softened in a way I hadn't seen in years. He reached for her hand. And my world shattered in a single brutal instant. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. I sat frozen in my car, the rain starting to drizzle against the windshield, watching my husband walk into that hotel with another woman. My body shook with rage, heartbreak, disbelief. A part of me wanted to storm inside, to scream at him in front of the world, to claw that smile off her face. But another part of me, the rational, terrified part, stayed rooted in place. I drove home in silence, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. The house felt colder than it ever had. His plate still sat on the table, the candle burned low, and I stared at them with tears streaming down my face. For the first time in our marriage, I realized I was truly, utterly alone. When Daniel finally came home past midnight, he looked tired but strangely satisfied. He kissed my forehead absent-mindedly before slipping upstairs. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to his steady breathing beside me. And I knew, my perfect life was gone. It had been replaced by a war I never asked for. A war between hate and love. Between betrayal and desire. Between the woman I was and the woman I would have to become. And that was only the beginning. The days after that night blurred together. I went through the motions of life, teaching my students, grading papers, cooking dinners, but everything felt hollow, like I was watching my own life from outside a glass wall. Daniel's laughter grated on me. His casual touches made my skin crawl. His phone, always buzzing, felt like a ticking time bomb. One evening I couldn't take it anymore. He walked into the kitchen, loosening his tie, humming as if he carried no secrets. My heart pounded in my chest. The words burned on my tongue. "Who is she?" I asked. He froze mid-step. "What are you talking about?" "The woman in the red dress," I said, my voice trembling but sharp. "The one you met at the hotel last Friday." His eyes widened, then narrowed. He tried to recover, but his face betrayed him before his lips did. "You followed me?" he asked, anger flickering beneath his calm facade. "Don't turn this on me," I snapped. "I saw you, Daniel. I saw you with her." For a moment, silence. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the pounding of my heart. Then he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's not what you think." I laughed bitterly. "Don't you dare feed me cliches. You held her hand like she was your world. You don't look at me that way anymore." His jaw clenched. He opened his mouth, closed it again, then finally whispered, "Her name is Monica. She's someone I met through work." The name sliced through me like glass. "How long?" I whispered. Daniel looked away. "A few months." I staggered back, gripping the counter to steady myself. "A few months." While I cooked his meals, washed his clothes, prayed for our marriage to find its spark again, he was giving his spark to someone else. Tears blurred my vision. "Why, Daniel? Was I not enough?" His voice cracked, softer now. "It's not about enough. I don't know what happened. It wasn't supposed to mean anything." But the way he said her name, Monica, told me it meant everything. After that night, our home became a battlefield of silence. Words turned into weapons. Every glance felt like a wound. I wanted to throw him out, to burn his clothes, to scream my pain into the world. But then I'd see his tired face in the mornings, the guilt shadowing his eyes, and a part of me clung to the man I once knew. Because love doesn't just vanish, even when it should. I tried to hate him, but memories betrayed me. Our first kiss in college, the way he held me when my father died, the vows we whispered under a summer sky. Yet every time his phone lit up, my chest tightened. Every time he worked late, my imagination tormented me with visions of Monica in his arms. I became two women, one who longed to forgive and one who wanted to destroy him. Then temptation knocked at my door. His name was Ryan, a fellow teacher at the high school. He was kind, attentive, and he noticed the pain I tried so hard to hide. He lingered at my desk after class, cracked jokes to make me smile, and one evening when I stayed late grading papers, he said softly, "You deserve better than the sadness in your eyes." The words made my heart ache. For the first time in months, I felt seen, wanted, and I hated myself for wanting it. That night, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, staring at the stranger I'd become. A wife betrayed. A woman torn between clinging to the ruins of her marriage and reaching for something new. I pressed my palms to the sink, tears sliding down my cheeks. How had my picture-perfect life turned into this? The weeks that followed felt like I was living in a house built on fault lines, waiting for the inevitable quake to rip it apart. Daniel tried, I'll give him that. He came home earlier, cooked dinner a few times, even brought me flowers once. But every gesture felt tainted. Because flowers can't erase lipstick stains, and dinners can't erase nights in hotel rooms. And every time his phone buzzed, I jumped. Was it Monica? Did she still hold a piece of him that I could never reclaim? One Friday evening, the dam finally burst. He was sitting at the dining table, scrolling on his phone, when I asked quietly, "Are you still seeing her?" His head shot up. "What? No. I told you it was over." "Then why?" I said, my voice shaking. "Did I see her car parked outside your office yesterday?" Daniel slammed his phone down. "Are you following me again?" "Jesus, Emily, this is insane." "Insane?" I choked out. "Do you have any idea what insanity is? It's cooking dinner while picturing you with her. It's lying next to you and wondering if you whispered her name when you dreamed. It's trying to believe your promises while knowing you've broken them before." He stood, his chair screeching against the floor. "I made a mistake," he yelled. "A mistake." I shouted back, tears spilling. "Mistakes don't last months. Mistakes don't involve hotels and hand-holding and, last night was unforgettable, texts." The silence that followed was deafening. My chest heaved, my hands trembling. For a moment, I thought he might finally break, fall to his knees and beg. Instead, his shoulders slumped. He whispered, "I don't know how to fix this." And something inside me cracked. because for the first time I realized he wasn't fighting for us anymore. That night I couldn't sleep. I tossed, turned, stared at the ceiling while Daniel slept beside me, a stranger in my bed. At 2 a.m. I slipped out quietly and drove to the school. My classroom was dark, but I flicked on the lamp at my desk and sat there, staring at the stacks of graded papers. The quiet wrapped around me like a blanket, and for once I could hear my own heart clearly. I thought about Ryan, his gentle smile, the way his eyes held no secrets. He represented a door I could open, a future that might not be haunted. But I also thought about the vows I made to Daniel, the years we had built together, the history that still pulsed through my veins. 2 lives pulled at me, the life I had and the life I could have. By sunrise I knew. When I walked back into our bedroom, Daniel stirred awake. His eyes were heavy with exhaustion, guilt, and something else, fear. "I can't do this anymore," I said softly. He sat up, his voice rough. "Emily, please." "No," I interrupted. "I've begged, I've waited, I've hoped. But I can't fight for us alone. And you've already chosen her in ways I can never unsee." Tears filled his eyes. He reached for me, but I stepped back. "I deserve to be loved wholly, Daniel. Not in halves. Not in leftovers." The weight of my words hung between us. And in that moment I felt something I hadn't felt in months. It didn't erase the pain, but it gave me clarity. I wasn't walking away because I didn't love him. I was walking away because I finally loved myself more. Epilogue: The woman I became. 6 months later, I stood in front of my students, the spring sunlight streaming through the windows. My life wasn't perfect. It was messy, complicated, sometimes lonely. But it was mine. Daniel and I divorced quietly. He moved to another city. Last I heard, Monica wasn't even in the picture anymore. Funny how affairs burn bright and then burn out. Ryan and I stayed friends. Maybe someday we'd be more. Maybe not. For once, I wasn't rushing to fill the void. Because this story, my story, wasn't about finding a man to heal me. It was about finding myself after being broken. And as I looked at the young faces before me, teaching them about resilience and choices, I realized something powerful. The secret affair hadn't just shattered my world. It had forced me to build a new one. One stronger, braver, unapologetically mine.